Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I will be talking about my lambdas and you will get my pre-programmed lambda collection. And if you're only here to steal my lambdas and to get them, in the video description there's a link where you can download the collection and so you don't need to watch the whole video, but otherwise I will talk in this video a little bit about why I'm using lambdas, what is my thought process, where I get my inspiration from, and so on and so on. So feel free to steal my lambdas, but also feel free to watch this video alongside with me. But in both ways, please stay for this disclaimer here. So if you intend to use those lambdas, be aware that the lambda collection isn't error-free. I also face a lot of time or often errors from my collection or kind of where I get to borders where my collection isn't helpful anymore and so on and so on, or where I have errors inside there. So be aware of that. And also my lambdas aren't 5G tested lambdas. So also with I tend to do for input stuff, I tend to have there an input test and so on. But these aren't 5G lambdas. But this is more important. Only use those lambdas, especially in competitions like the MEWC or MECC, or in a work context, even more important, if you fully understand the lambda. This does mean not only understand what the intention of this lambda is, so what this lambda should do, but also how this lambda works in the backbone. So what is the underlying formula behind those lambdas or behind this lambda. Only use it when you know this and you understand it. Because simply copying lambdas without checking them can be dangerous. And I say that because I've made those mistakes and also, because it is simply dangerous. It's um, it's like using a black box, but sometimes it's also using a black box and you don't know what this black box should do. So be aware of that. And also this Lambda collection contains inspirational contribution by a lot of guys. So Benny, Bo, Brittany, Dim, Erik, Emilie, Harry, Hazem, Lianna, and Lorenzo. Even though Lorenzo doesn't know about this, but I watch his videos all the time, and when I see a lambda he's using, I try to understand what this does in the backbone, and sometimes he has inspired me. So also without knowing, he inspired me there. So a lot of lambdas are inspired by the collections or lambdas from those guys, and I think, for example, also in the case of Bo, I've more or less copied a lambda from him. It's I think the Maze lambda. But when I copy a lambda, I do not simply copy it, I will fully understand it. So in case of both Maze lambda, I think it took me around 10 hours, and this is no joke, it took me 10 hours to deconstruct and fully understand this lambda and rebuild it a little bit in my own way. So I'm not simply copying lambdas, I rewrite them and I want to fully understand them, and you should too. And also please give a thumbs up. And here Bo, Lim, Erik and Lorenzo, they've also, I think, this is without a space, they've also YouTube channels, so follow them, give them a thumbs up, and also to the other guys helping bringing together this collection, even if they doesn't knew they helping with this. Thank you guys. So now you can all go away if you do not want to hear the following. But next I will talk about why I'm using those lambdas. So my lambda challenge or lambda using kind of stuff started not even 1 year ago, so more or less 11 months ago. I went to the MECC, so the Microsoft Excel Collegiate Challenge finals in Tucson, Arizona. And I went there without, I knew what the lambda was. I also knew what Lambdas could do, but I wasn't aware of like stuff of scan and so on. My Excel knowledge was like more basic than it is today. So I went there and yeah, I failed spectacularly. So in like the first case I opened and the first kind of stuff, we had to um, count the letters inside a word. How often an A appeared in the word Arizona. And I somehow faced a blackout there. I didn't knew how to do this. Today I could do this like in blindfolded at midnight. So with like the lens minus lens substitute approach, there you have to pay attention to like upper and lowercase, but never mind. I could do this on ease. But back then, 11 months ago, it wasn't possible for me to do that. It took me a lot of time and yeah, I failed there then in this round. Wasn't able to go to the semifinals and the finals. Hopefully this will be different in Vegas this year. Looking forward to it. But yeah, I failed there spectacularly and yeah, wasn't the best time. So here you can see me in the back um, doing there with like tears on my head and not tears like sweat pearls on my head and so on. So what wasn't the best? It was a cool experience, but wasn't my best Excel skill kind of showing thing because yeah, in this case, in this environment with like chat deck and all this stuff, I wasn't able to do this in this circumstance because my brain power wasn't on the point there. And later and then also I said I went there with knowing what lambdas are, and I knew this from like I think it was like this video from Leila Garani. So, but in this video she was like showing simply lambda examples, but I thought, oh, why should I do this with a lambda? I can also do this with like an easier formula without doing this lambda stuff. So it was like an easy example, like lambda a b, a plus b, and so on. So like simply not that interesting stuff. So and also a short disclaimer: if you want to know more about lambdas, I've also a few videos on my channel where I will cover lambdas and the theory behind it. So it isn't like in the expert course I have on my channel. So please feel free to go there and use the knowledge from there. This is more of like a Lambda sharing and talking about Lambda video here I'm doing right now. So I knew what Lambdas were, but haven't paid attention to to them. But later in the finals, where but later in the finals, there were like an inspiring speech by this guy. Um, his name is Craig Hepmaker, and he was talking about so-called 5G lambdas. And even though Erik was also speaking at this kind of event, also Erik's speech was super and inspiring. Craig's speech was more like representation than a speech, was more impressive to me because then it made click. Because I've learned, oh, I will never face this situation I had in the morning because he talked about lambdas and building up lambda collection, sharing them via the gist kind of stuff and the Excel add-ins and so on and so on. And then I thought, oh, I can pre-write a lambda, store it in in a worksheet, and using it in competition. So I can write, for example, lambda for counting letters in words, like I did in the morning. And then instead of writing this formula, I will be super fast and also kind of I think of brain like or brain capacity um, as an limited source, and it is a limited source. And if I do not need to think about how this Excel technique is working anymore, because I know I have a Lambda for this, I can take my brain energy to other more complicated stuff in Excel cases. And so after the speech of, or after the presentation by Great Cat Maker, I started doing my first Lambda collection. So I think it was like 10 days after the finals, or even right after it. I started building my own Lambda collection. So here from December, even from December 2023, I started with a collection. It's even not the earliest version of my collection. And here you have, for example, split text into letter arrays, because we needed this, in this case, also later, or count later in Word. It's like the same I did here and I failed there. So I started then with doing a Lambda collection and building up on this collection from there on. And I then also heard about the power that Lambdas and pre-programmed Lambdas, especially in a competitive context, can give you. So how am I using pre-programmed Lambdas? So most of my time in Excel is like in work, but this is like easy Excel where you don't need that much of an complicated stuff, unfortunately. Um, but the other side of my Excel life is like on this channel, but not only, is like doing competitive Excel. And both in LinkedIn Excel challenges and in Microsoft Excel World Championship and MECC and FMWC and so on cases. And in like these Excel challenges, mostly by Excel BI and by Omid, I'm using pre-programmed Lambdas never or rarely. So because the problem is, if you don't have pre-programmed Lambda, so if you have pre-programmed Lambdas and only using them, you do not learn and competitively or repetitively learn the technique behind it. So I tend to use, or I use in Excel LinkedIn challenges, I try to use not pre-programmed Lambdas. When I use Lambdas, I make them as a Lambda inside let, because I want to train without those Lambdas. But I also need to train with my Lambdas, because when I don't train with them, I don't know what I have in my extensive collection. And therefore, in a competitive environment, I wouldn't be able to know what I have there. And I faced this also because I made something without a pre-programmed Lambda. And later I stumbled over it. Oh, I had a pre-programmed Lambda for this, and I would have been faster in a competitive case when I would have remembered. And therefore, I try to do like all the Microsoft Excel World Championship cases and MECC cases in live, and afterwards in my training attempts, I try to do them with my pre-programmed Lambdas. So this is a delicate balance, as I've told you, or as I will tell you, because if you don't train with your Lambdas, you do not know what you have in your Lambda collection. But if you train with only with your Lambdas, you will face them problems because you do not repetitively learn the technique. And so on, it's kind of a balance. So for example, in some LinkedIn challenges, we need to do like not palindromes, but prime numbers. And I have a super duper Lambda. I think it's from Bo, which can determine prime numbers pretty fast and pretty accurate. And therefore, because I do not need prime number determination otherwise, I only use this Lambda to do like prime number determinations. But or otherwise, I also sometimes use in MAWC cases not my pre-programmed lambdas because they are, for example, not suitable, or I face errors there, and so on and so on. So it's a delicate balance in using those pre-programmed lambdas and training with them or not training with them. So yeah, you should pay attention to this if you have like pre-programmed lambdas, especially if you have like a lot. Do not only rely on them, because at some point you need to do and you need to know the underlying technique and you need to be able to apply this underlying technique. That was my 2 cents on this and when I used this. So where did I get my inspiration from? The first inspiration is from sharing collections with others. So I shared my Lambda collection with a few other guys, and also those guys shared their or collections with me. There are also a lot of collections out there. For example, Dim shared his collection, Lianna shared her collection, or was it Lianna? I don't know. I thought it was Lianna, but it could be also Brit. I think it was Brittany. Then Bo, Dim, Brittany, and also Hayden shared his collection a few days ago, but I haven't taken a look into this. Also, like Giles Mail shared his collection, and so on and so on. So yeah, there I get my inspiration from. But as I've told you, not copying them. I want to know what the Lambda does. I'm also more kind of the guy. I I'm like more when I see like a Lambda in a video, for example, from Lorenzo or so on, and I only see what this Lambda can does a little bit. For example, also the optionality would be nice, but later on I built this Lambda on my own. That's my Lambda heaven because then I know what this Lambda can do. I do not rely on other guys. I only get like the inspiration, what I could add to my collection. Also, another inspiration is like LinkedIn because, for example, Hazem he is posting a lot of Lambda kind of stuff. Also, some short stuff like you will later stumble over this. And super cool is empty Lambda, so it's like an advanced is blank, and so on. LinkedIn Excel challenges, for example, if you remember the simple case, so like this ugly case where we needed to calculate with like 15 or 20 figure numbers in Excel accurately. There was like a LinkedIn challenge by Excel BI. I think it was like even 2 years ago. It was like challenge 100-ish or so on, where we had to do the same kind of stuff. And sometimes you stumble over some things in LinkedIn Excel challenges where you could make a Lambda out of it that you could use then repetitively. For example, also with like prime number determination or palindrome determination. I don't know if I have a palindrome determination. Is palindrome, but yeah, I have some. It's all was also inspired by a LinkedIn challenge. Then MAWC cases or MACC cases. So like after every single case, I go over the case and I try to look at it from a Lambda writing perspective. So I try to look at it and think, oh, could I do a Lambda out of some parts and not a Lambda that is only suitable for this case, a Lambda that is generally helpful and that could then use on other kind of stuff. So if you have like a poker game also, I do not want to do a Lambda out of this except for like cards converting Lambdas or so on. But if you know, oh, this technique I use there could be suitable and adaptable to other cases, then I write a Lambda out of it. And also like other inspiration. For example, the videos from Lorenzo where I watch the videos like very slowly or not slowly. I watch them every time in double speed, but where I watch the video and then if there is like a function I do not know, it's most of the time a Lambda from Lorenzo, and I think, oh, what are the arguments he's putting it, or a few what are the arguments he's putting in, and what does this lambda do. So yeah, that is also kind of inspiration at our other ways of inspiration. What is my lambda writing process? So if I only get the inspiration, this inspiration takes me to a simple lambda, so basic underlying lambda. Then I test this lambda, this basic kind of stuff, and then I do refinement or add optionality, and then afterwards I test this lambda again, and then I add it into my collection, name it, describe it, and so on. When I get a whole lambda, so a working lambda from another guy, I do a lambda inspection. I audit this lambda to the core. Then I rewrite it with my own argument. I write it also, for example, differently, make other stuff, use, for example, my pre-programmed lambdas, if I can then simplify this lambda and so on. I test it, then I also refine it or add optionality to it, test it again, and then add it also to my collection with like a proper description and a name and so on. The tools I write my lambdas are plain Excel, or also plain Word pages. So I sometimes write parts of my lambdas or my lambdas in general on like a write page. It's kind of crazy, I know. I also use sometimes the advanced formula environment, so the AFE with like the Excel add-in, and also, but I think this is more of kind of future stuff. I hope to write more lambdas with OE robot because there's a special tool in it to write lambdas. So, but it isn't done with like writing lambdas, because writing lambdas is only the first step. Afterwards, it takes maintenance. You need to go over your collection. Sometimes there are like errors that you then need to troubleshoot and so on and so on. So after you write your lambdas, this is only the first step. Then you sometimes want to add optionality. You see something there, something seems to make more sense when you add the optionality and so on and so on. And you're adding also derived lambdas. So you will see afterwards when we review my collection in the next step. I have a lot of lambdas that are based on other lambdas because this is my approach on dealing with lambdas. And therefore I add often derived lambdas that are only different in a few kind of steps, but the underlying basic backbone is like the same. You also test some lambdas more often. You test edge cases. So for example, a few weeks ago, Dim wrote a comment under my video where he asked, "Oh, this lambda, does this handle like the borders of Excel?" And here it didn't handle the borders. Then I rewrote it that it was like dealing with borders, but there I made a crucial mistake because I used offset and I didn't pay attention to like when I make a alignment for one border that I also need to adjust like the height and the width. So I created an error with like adjusting it for another edge case or like hindering an error. And therefore you see here I have one lambda where I rewrote or added optionalities at least 2 times. So this maintenance stuff can get quite tricky and can get messy and also take a lot of time. Also like debugging, for example, in the last, or I don't know if it was the last case, I think it was Wobble. I saw that one of my lambdas wasn't handling large data sets properly, and so on. Currently on my list for like writing a new lambda is like a lambda for this kind of stuff that is also handling large data sets. I haven't thought about this, and you see here, after I saw this error, I knew directly that it would be like this large data set problem. But otherwise, I would have need to test this and then, yeah, see what was causing this problem. So you see here, maintenance is also important for your Lambda collection. And now, the moment you waited for, we take a deeper look into my collection. So this is my collection as of today. So it is not finished. I have here, for example, on my notice, I have like 4 Lambdas I want to add. Um, and there are also like 2 collections out there, one from Giles and one from Hayden, that I want to review and take a look if I should add something to my collection. So hopefully, fingers crossed, when I go to Vegas, there will be like not only 335 Lambdas there, I think there would be like 250 or so on. And here. So you will get my collection currently as they are as the collection is of today. I do not know if I want to or if I will add also like later stages of my collection, but yeah, anyways, this is like the main part of my collection, I would say, for the next kind of years. And what is inside my collection? I've categorized my collection in like 4 categories currently. One like is the Excel ESports Lambdas. These are Lambdas I'm using normally only for Excel ESports. Then there are like financial Lambdas, but there are only a few of them. You don't need to pay attention for this. Also like modeling Lambdas, only 2 Lambdas. This isn't kind of that important. And the most part are like general Lambdas. But general Lambdas doesn't mean that I don't use them in Excel kind of environments, so at least what kind of environments. They're only the only difference to like Excel esports lambdas is that they can also be like suitable for general usage. And all of my lambdas are named with like their, I think, meaningful lambda way. So most of the guys they were like making a short lambda name, but I want to know exactly what my lambda by the lambda name what my lambda does. So for example is like um, count most, for example. This was a lambda inspired by Lorenzo. So count most of value in area. So then I have here a range, and it gets like here this table. And here I know, oh, it's an Excel esports lambda because Excel esports lambdas are starting with E, general lambdas are starting with L, and modeling with M, and financial with F. Later on, I would also add like special lambda collections. For example, my plan was to do like more derivatives pricing in my semester break. Unfortunately, it didn't went to plan, but this would be like a D lambda for like derivatives pricing and so on. So if you see here, my lambda name is this column combined with this column. And then I have here my lambda, in this case an AE lambda for Excel esports. And then you see by the name what it does. So in this case, count most of values in area. Self-explaining. Also, I have here an explanation in German, as I speak German, and this is my collection, and in English. And you will also see here the explanation here. Where is the explanation? Value. Why isn't it showing an explanation? Okay, I thought. I thought Excel was showing like the explanation kind of stuff, but it isn't currently. So also in like inside here, there's like because I've copied it. Yeah, this is like the problem. So I don't know why, but when you copy like your lambda collection to another thing, there isn't like the collection in. when you copy the sheet. I don't know why, but for a few there is like an explanation, and normally as a comment there's also like the explanation in German and in English. And also here is again the category and also all the arguments. And you see here when there is like an argument in edgy brackets, it's like an optional argument. So that much about my uh, collection way of thinking. Also, like another way you see here, um, I also tend to do like for the arguments, I tend to do like self-explained names. So for example, I tend to do like the Excel names or additional self-explaining names. So for example, here I want to have a criteria array and an analysis array. And then afterwards, as an optional arguments, I want to have here either sum, count, max, min, and so on. And here you need to add like the number then. So if you want to add an 1, you get there the sum. If you add there a 6, you get the median and so on. But normally I have there like error correction. So if you don't enter the proper name, then it goes like to the default case, which is in this case the sum. But also here like yeah, extraction mode is like self-explaining, or like here max lookup search mode is like self-explaining code and kind of stuff. So yeah, you see, I try to do this in a self-explaining way. So I have a lot of stuff, and as I've said, I have a lot of repetitive stuff. So for example, here I have 6 different 2D lookup cases, 2D lookup lambdas. I have a few stuff about arrays. I have a lot of stuff about errors, and my error lambdas are the best. I like them and I love them because with them I'm super fast at error cases, and I know that Professor Brown, the MACC founder, is loving error kind of stuff. So I hope for something there in the finals, hopefully. Yeah, and they have different for like errors also here. There are some stuff with errors. So also then this is like more of a legacy kind of stuff because it was like before I had the group by function. So this is kind of a group by function. I have a bonus setup kind of stuff. A lot of cell reference stuff. Count most of. I have like currently 11 lambdas, but there will be more because this count most of stuff is like every time an Excel ESports bonus question. And with this kind of stuff, I'm ready for every possible answer and for different cases, for like large data sets, for like single output results without the need of putting there an index over a group by and so on. I feel a lot of distance kind of stuff, also important, and I use often with match cases. I feel a few is lambdas, for example, is empty is super useful because when something is in there, for example, a space, a cell isn't empty with like is blank, but it is like with my is empty function. This was, for example, by Hazem inspired. A few my large number calculations after Rydobon, the Excel wizard. I can here list multiple lambda arrays together. It's like legacy and not good, but here never mind. I have permutation kind of stuff, reverse kind of stuff, running totals and products and so on. I have a little bit about text between, a little bit of X lookup, for example. Also max lookup and max match and min lookup and min match are super useful, and all this kind of stuff. So feel free to explore my Lambda collection and take a look in it. Because yeah, only when you know your Lambdas, you should apply them. That was like my 2 cents. And then also I haven't made a separate sheet for it, but yeah, there was like from a few guys the intention of like, yeah, make Excel esports without lambdas, especially in the finals. But I'm strongly against it because doing lambdas isn't that hard. So as I've told you, um, I went from not knowing the scan function to like going to the finals and failing spectacularly there to like writing 1 week later my first Lambda collection there. So this isn't like a large entry barrier for newbie to step into Excel esports because they don't have a Lambda collection. This isn't here. Also, sorry. Here's also something about Maze in it. Yeah, just to know. Where were I? So this isn't a large entry barrier for new joiners of Excel esports. And with all the Lambda collections out there, you can get inspired. You know how to write Lambdas. I've also like a video on my channel. So with all this stuff out there, I think it isn't a barrier against new joiners to have the Lambdas allowed in Excel esports. Also, it isn't that of a competitive advantage when you see how much time sometimes went into such collections. So in my collection, there went more than 100 hours. I don't know if these are like hundreds with like in the higher upper bracket, but at least more than 100 hours went into my collection. Also, when I add like the videos I only watch to see if some guys have Lambdas I don't have, then it would be even larger. So yeah, it is like a lot of time that went into this. And when I see, oh, I could also invest this time, I invest in my Lambda collection. When I could invest this time in like training, I would be also faster in other kind of cases. Also, when I do not have Lambdas. So this isn't like that of a competitive advantage when you do like a mixed calculation. And also there was like that against Lambdas that that the viewers can see what I'm doing when I'm typing in there, may solve or move path or so on. But at least my Lambdas are more understandable than Lambda of others. So like percom or something, I don't even know what percom means. I know what this Lambda can do, and I have it in a different kind of way in my collection. But with only these 6 letters, I couldn't know what percom does. But yeah, with my Lambdas, these are more understandable. But now, as I've shared my collection, if you see me, hopefully, in some live streams, you can take a look, pause the video, go into my collection and take a look at my Lambdas. And this was also like not but intention why I was sharing my Lambdas here with you. That you can take a look also in like my Excel esports solving videos, that you can take a look at my Lambdas and see, oh, what does this Lambda does and how can I use it and so on. So here we are now really at the end of the video. Thank you for your attention. If you have a different opinion on Excel esports and Lambdas, feel free to discuss it with me by writing a comment in the section or discuss it with me live in Las Vegas, where I hope to see you all. And also, if you have other questions, feel free to answer them. But I do not have the time and the intention to explain all the Lambdas in my collection to you. So if you have a specific question about the Lambda in this collection, please first take a proper look at it. And when you then do not understand what this Lambda does and how this works, ask me, but I will not answer like 6,000 questions in the comments, even though it would boost the attention to this video. So, but anyways, thank you for your time. I hope I could help you in building your own Lambda collection. And otherwise, probably I gave away my Kryptonite with it because you have now the same competitive advantage as I have, even though I have invested a lot of time in it. So yeah, you have even more competitive advantage. But anyways, feel free to use this collection in Excel esports cases, where we hopefully hopefully will met. So thank you for your attention. I hope to see you also in the next videos on this channel. Thank you. Bye.